Saturday, the 15th of June, 8:30 or so in the morning. There's the bonnet sitting there, lonely, wondering what's going to happen to it. But we have a new compressor. So I think this one electrically died, but the garage mate had another compressor, of course. So this is a 30 gallon instead of a 60 gallon, so half the capacity, but it's an oil motor, not an oilless, so it'll run a little bit quieter, and just as important, if not most important, it's going to also run cooler. So I will not have quite the moisture problems that I did with this guy up here. I don't expect a complete solution to that problem, but it still runs 120 pound tank and all. It puts about 10 standard cubic feet per minute out according to the label plate at 40 pounds, vice 15 or so that this larger guy did. But I think because it's my painting is not that much, I think it should keep up okay and not incur the moisture problem. So I've still got the paint left over from the other day. I'll mix that up real quick and get that re-stirred. That should be just fine. So we'll get the paint on the rest of the way. 2 coats of that stuff should have enough to do that there, and then we'll move on for the rest of the day from there. All right, so hopefully you can tell that the picture is a little clearer. Who knew that they made lens protectors, UV filters for little itty bitty cameras like this? Wish I had bought it a long time ago before I started jacking up my lens with welding and everything. But anyway, I'll try to give you a better, clearer shot of what I do in here when I'm painting epoxy primer. And again, it's just the methodology that hopefully puts it down even. So I'm going to essentially treat this as if the last coat didn't even happen and start all over again. 2 wet coats. Alright, so that's the first coat. It went on a little funny. I'm a little concerned, I don't know if it's because the paint sat or what, but it's very splotchy. It's not smooth like I'm used to. So I mixed up a little bit more kind of fresh stuff, and hopefully I'll come through whatever this was. But day's not starting off real great, but it's alright, we'll make it through. 2 wet coats, still have that mottled look to it. You could probably see it in the video there. I'm not sure again why that is. If it was the paint starting to kick, or if it was the gun, or if it was the compressor, which I doubt. Especially I don't doubt any contamination in the compressor. A lot of variables there, unfortunately. But it did go down. I'm going to call it okay. I'm hoping that this mottled stuff will block out, and if it doesn't, I'll just probably go with another coat or 2 of epoxy and maybe the build primer and stuff like that. If worse comes to worse, I can always take the palm sander to it and have that help me with a higher grit and just slowly work the stuff out. Again, I obviously need to figure this out I need to figure it out. All right, good evening, everybody. About 4 o'clock. Tuesday the 18th of June, here to try to see if I can block out this texture that I've got on the build primer, or excuse me, the epoxy primer. Again, it's pretty subtle, can't really feel it that much, but you definitely can see it. Now I did a little bit of reflection and what have you on what had gone on and things that were going down when I was painting. It might be a little bit tough to show up here, but these are my spray patterns testing the gun before I shot. And if you can see way over here, it's pretty light, and I work my way to the right as I come up on the paint supply. Now I am used to doing about 1.5 turns or so, 1.25 turns on my supply before I'm ready to shoot the first coat, and then I usually go to 1 3/4 or so. I was having to open this thing up about 2.5 turns to get adequate fluid flow out. And the other thing you can see is they're almost crescent shaped. They kind of curve. So what that tells me is that I probably had a clog in the gun somewhere, and I just didn't recognize it for what it was when I was shooting it, so that when I was putting the paint down, it was coming out heavy, and it was fluttering or whatever would happen to cause the texture to show up as it was kind of coming out of the gun all wonky because of the clog. I'll have to put some lacquer thinner or something in there to see if I can determine a pattern the next time before I go to shoot again. But for now, I'm going to take some 220 grit sandpaper to this, see if I can block this stuff out. I'm hoping it'll come out. If it's not coming with 220, then I'll go down to 180. And then if you can see that little guy right there, missed that little guy right there, so that'll be a little filler spot. But we're going to see how this works out, and crossing my fingers. Also, as a little tease here, you can see I've got some progress done on reupholstering this chair, or the seat, I should say. Yeah, I'm doing a full video on that. It's not gorgeous. It's not perfect, that's for sure. Especially the back here. I got some creases and stuff like you can see. But I did put the squab cover on, and it doesn't really seem to show at all. But painful, but it's coming. 220 grit ready to go. Block it out. See what happens. I don't know how well this is going to focus, but it looks like it's going to come out okay. It's going to take a little bit of work, especially blocking it by hand, but it looks like it's going to be okay. Here you can see where the scratches, or not scratches, but the contour is set in there, and then right next to it seems to be fading out pretty good. So I think I'm going to get lucky here, but again, I think this is going to require a pretty good amount of work. I'll get this down okay, and then hit it with build primer, and the build primer will rescue me a little bit. Well, after 2 hours of blocking, not too bad. I took care of a lot of the scratches just with the epoxy. There's still some spots. So this is all blocked with 220, and then in the nooks and crannies, especially like in here where it's almost impossible to get into with anything red scuff at all. And then I'm going to try to get some build primer on here, I think, for the evening. Not sure if this is going to work, but I got a little bit of lacquer thinner in here. And before I go mixing up and wasting potentially some build primer, I'm going to just spray a pattern of lacquer thinner on here and see if I get a pattern that I would expect. Yeah, so that's much better. You can see it looks a little dry in the middle. And all that's telling me is I need a little bit more fluid. And I don't have that horseshoe look to it, so definitely a problem with cleaning the gun the last time. So I'll go ahead, mix up some build primer, wipe this guy down, I haven't done that yet, and get the painting. One coat of build primer down. Definitely I had clog in the gun or something going on. Fortunately, I didn't do a real hot job here, so I'm getting ready for the second coat. I'm in my 5-minute wait period. Had quite a few gaps, unfortunately, but I'll try to fill them in and pay a little bit better attention. But anyway, I'm real relieved and happy that I don't have another problem besides just poor cleaning on my part with the gun the last time before I painted the epoxy. Lucky enough to get 3 coats on there of build primer. Again, you wait for 5 minutes in between each coat, flash time. But happy, looking really nice. I did fix that little spot over here where I had that little divot. The camera's not going to focus very well on it. And I found 1 or 2 more, just little specks of polyester that I put on there. But that'll await for the next visit to block again. And then I'm going to start with 220 again, and then probably do the palm sander, the orbital sander, and see how that works for me on this. All right, good morning, everybody. Time to get back at it. 8:30 Sunday morning, 23rd of June. I'm going to be blocking the back of the body here today, getting the build primer taken care of and see what I've got, and go from there. Here at the passenger side of the rear wing, got my guide coat, so we'll see what we find here. I don't expect this side to be too horrible. All right, 10 after 12. A little sick of blocking. Everything is blocked, however, through 220 by hand. I'm going to take the 320 on the orbital sander next and see what I get. If you can, I can't really zoom in too far because the camera loses focus, but if you can kind of see some of those scratches, I'm hoping that 320 will take that out, so we're going to figure that out. Also in here, this is the bad spot that actually didn't come out quite as bad as I thought. I can feel the waviness over in here, but I probably am going to accept it as is. And then otherwise, like I said, just take the orbital sander and hit it and play with that for a little bit, and then probably stop and move on to something else because blocking for the last 4 hours or so, a little burned out. Everything has been orbitaled out to 320. I'm going to stop here, and the sanding scratches and everything look much more like the doors. When I did the doors, I think I blocked them out to 400 or maybe 320, but this is a lot more comparable to that. Again, you can see my high spots here. Now what I'm going to do, and I haven't done it yet, and I'm afraid to do it, but I'm going to go ahead and do it, is just spritz some water on here and use the light like I did last time and see how bad it is. So it's still kind of dusty. But we'll see what happens here and get some of this dust off. No, that's not too bad. A little shaky in here. Right in there. Some of the water's starting to dry off too. But yeah, I'll take that. Alright, so like I said, I'm going to go ahead and do something else now. And a little burned out on the blocking, but happy with the way that it's going. I don't think I'll need to do another round of build primer on here. So I'll go out to 400. And then, wow, that may be paint time after that. Clean this up real good. Anyway, well, the bonnet's going to be the next major portion here, so that's going to be it for the body work for today. All right, everybody, thanks so much for watching. Leave a comment below, tell me what you think. Body's almost done as far as I'm concerned. Got some sanding left to do, but I don't think I'm going to be needing any more paint until the very final end. I may put a full coat of epoxy primer on there, at least spot areas where I got bare metal. But I think the days are over for build primer there. So next up is going to be the bonnet after I sand that out a little bit more, and then we'll start hopefully getting into the home stretch for paint. So thanks so much. Have a good rest of your weekend. Cheers.